Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 3:31 on this Wednesday afternoon. And you see the towel down there, you know. It says, THQ's problems. You know, it's something about WWE'13 suffering from THQ financial problems. Well, I think primarily that could have been why WWE'13, as some have said, after purchasing the game, and after a few months of playing it and going through it, some have said it's not one of the best games around. We pretty much know, I mean, let's be honest, we know when a video game publisher publishes a game, releases a game, we pretty much know that when they do that, all the video game magazines and websites out there, you know, all seem to be giving that video game a particular rating that's a lot higher than a lot of people would think it would need. And a lot of people would think later on it should have gotten, I should say. And so, you know, so a lot of customers like myself, like Joe Vargas, Angry Joe, they will buy that game sometimes just based on that rating. So, due to the fact that you got people like, well, I'm not going to throw too many names, but very well-known video game sites and magazines out there that give, you know, certain games a high rating or a great review. Like I said, a lot of people like myself, Joe Vargas, you know, 8-Bit Mickey and James Wolf, you know, we'll go out and we'll buy that game based on that review, or we'll go out and try that game or rent that game based on that review, based on those ratings. More than likely we'll probably buy it if we were a fan of the series. But if we want to just try it out, we'll probably go online to a GameFly, or we'll go to a Redbox and we'll rent the game if it's available at a Redbox, or if there's any available over at GameFly, we'll pretty much rent it. We'll rent it to try it out. So, and we do it just because we look at the reviews and the ratings that are giving these high ratings, these high reviews, and we'll think maybe this not so bad. But when we get it home and we play it thoroughly, as long as we can, we find out that it's not exactly what was advertised. It doesn't live up to the reviews and the ratings that all these well-known websites and magazines and publishers have given it. And there's a reason for that. The reason is there's a lot of video game publishers out there that will, and I think this is no secret, actually pay money to the well-known video game websites, reviewing websites and magazines to say, hey, here's this much money, give us a good review. Ooh, even though it may not be the best in our opinion, give it a good review so we can make money off it. I mean, heck, Angry Joe Vargas will even, if he wants to, he could do, if he ever plans to, he would even mention it in a video. In fact, I think he has mentioned it subtly, if you will, throughout some of his videos. He has mentioned it. Now, what does that have to do with WWE'13? Well, WWE'13, as one fan has mentioned in an online blog review, was touted and advertised as this great game, as the next evolution, as the WWE game in the gaming series that you have to have. And true, everybody has agreed that the Attitude Era deal, the curation deal and everything are all great things about the game. They're all great. They're all things you love about the game. And it's made the series popular. You know, the creator arenas, the creator superstars and all that. it's perfect. The Attitude Era, great. But, as angry to quote Joe Vargas with his Soul Calibur review, he pretty much said that when you get to the other part of it, you start to see the niches and the dents and all that, and you start to see a lot of dents coming out in the Army. You start seeing that maybe not as good as people are touting it to be. And WWE'13 falls in that category. You see, it may have been given all these great ratings and reviews, but in reality, when you get it home, it doesn't fall into those categories. It doesn't fall into those ratings. Certain sections of it does, but other sections don't. And those sections that don't fall into those ratings are some of the most important sections. Like, for example, the online play, the community curations deal. You know, when you go to community curations, you're expected to go to an area to where you can automatically download or upload your stuff. You know, you should be able to upload and download your stuff or other people's curations. But there are a lot of times to where you can't do that because the server won't come on. It'll take too long to load. And even when you finally do get to the creations area, it doesn't come up automatically like it should. And it's not due to lag or anything, it's due to the server. And it makes me wonder if this is all the reason why games like 13 didn't do so well is because maybe it's all due to THQ having financial problems. I mean, if you know your company is going to have financial problems, then what you need to do is say, hey, look, let's not do this right now. Let's probably do what they did just about a week ago. So let's sell off some of these licenses so we can make money off these sales and try to rebuild the company. But they didn't. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And I'm thinking maybe that's one of the reasons games like WWE'13 were falling down the tubes. It's because they didn't. It's because of the financial reasons. And, you know, it just makes me curious as to why. Why they just didn't start selling off some of the licenses as they knew they were in debt. They knew they were in financial trouble. It doesn't make sense to me, folks. And I know you're thinking, well, they're not the WWE'13 is not as bad. You know, it's the first time it's happened. Yeah, I get that. This isn't the first time. It's not. But if you're going to have a server, you're going to have online, you're going to have community curations, you need to make sure everything is in line. You need to make sure everything's working right and focus on that. But I think mainly the focus was mainly on how to save the company, and they didn't put as much focus as they should have in the areas that need to be improved. I get the fact that, you know, at first the server seemed to be working right, and all of a sudden it doesn't. It seems that only at certain times during the day and night will it work. Like at night, like late at night, it will work for some odd reason. During the day it'll work at various times, but not really. And then here's what gets me, folks. You got the glitches. Of course, that's going to be expected in some games. You're always going to have certain glitches and everything. But then you have some freeze-ups, and again, that's expected, but not as much as this one has had. This has had its freeze-ups and everything. But then you have data, then you have load failures. Load failure. And here's the thing, I've used my cloud storage just recently. And yes, when you use cloud storage, it takes a while for the Xbox to power down, which means you have to unplug it sometimes just for it to power down. And secondly, and also I have my memory card, which works correctly with it, but not the load file for the hard drive. Now I don't think it's my hard drive because my other games work on it. So it makes me wonder if perhaps during the process that they didn't realize that maybe there was something in the games that caused them to have a load failure when it comes to the hard drives, but not to anything else. I think maybe they may have messed something up there. Makes me wonder. And again, does this have anything to do perhaps with THQ's financial problems? I believe in some way it does have something to do with it. Because again, you know, you don't release a game like WWE'13, which is anticipated by fans, give it a high rating and review, only for those reviews and ratings to be wrong in many aspects, and have people basically say that this game is probably one of the worst games they've played in a while. I'm not saying that because I still think it's good. I just got to use cloud storage in my memory card right now until either I get a new Xbox or a new hard drive. You know, and all I can hope is 2K, Take-Two, 2K Sports, whoever's going to be the publisher of this, takes their time with Ukes and says, okay, we're going to release the game this year, but we got to make sure everything is worked out completely. We got to make sure everything is perfectly fine. You know, if they're working with Ukes, that's what I'm trying to say. If they're working with them. Again, the problem is you don't release a game if you know it's going to be. You don't release a game with false advertising, and that's what they did here. Yes, some of the advertising did live up to what they said it did, but not all of it. And to me, you know, that's a disappointment. But again, it makes me wonder if perhaps this all has to tie in with the financial problems. You know, and again, what's up with the whole situation? What's up? And again, the other problem I have with this, and it seems that, you know, I'm an Xbox 360 owner, so it seems I'm not the only one that's suffering this. It happens. It seems to be happening on the PlayStation 3 as well, maybe even on the Wii. But it seems that when you create a character, it takes up about 60 megabytes of 60-something megabytes of file on a memory. And with a hard drive, that's no big deal. But on a memory card, it is. Seems cloud storage is indifferent. It seems I created and downloaded a few new characters, nothing really happened. Go figure. But anyway, besides that, if you know you're only going to be able to use a memory card, why would you do that? Why would you make the character files, the creative files for the characters 60-something megabytes? Why would you do that for the created arenas or the whatever? You get what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't. And you know, this one person that did a blog on it said that when you save a game to mine, it takes up about 8.7 megabytes. I mean, not megabytes, 8.7 gigabytes to save. So if you have like 10 gigabytes left on a 250-something hard drive, then you're pretty much screwed, right? He says here, to install the game or save the game or save certain aspects of it, it's going to take up 1 gigabyte of your internal hard drive or something like that. And it doesn't make, of your cloud storage, and it doesn't make sense. Excuse me for a second.